Hello everybody and welcome to part 4 of my Elder Scrolls Online preview series. So this is I'm Brittle from Flamingo Gaming, and we're fairly new, but if you've seen any of the other parts of this series, thanks for watching them, and if you haven't, go back and check them out because you might have missed some information and whatnot. So anyway, please like and subscribe to the channel if you can. You know, if you don't mind subscribing to channels, please do, because we're just starting out. You know, we've recently hit 50 subscribers, so it's not, I know it's not many, but you know, we've only been going like a month and a bit, so it's not too bad. So please do that if you can. So anyway, today I'm just going to be talking about the interview Matt Firor just did with Digital Spy. So if you haven't seen this, I'll put a link in the description to the actual interview and you can go and read it for yourself, because I'm not going to talk through every single answer he gave. I'm just giving you the run through, and then I'm going to be talking after the quotes about what I think this means. And you know, you might disagree with me, but you know, that's what this is all about. You know, nobody knows a lot about this game yet, so feel free to post comments and disagree with me or agree with me and whatnot. So anyway, the first question asked: how has the Elder Scrolls Online changed since it was revealed last year? And in return, Matt Firor says that we've done a lot of work refining the controls, making sure combat is fluid, responsive and balanced, etc. So I just think this is really nice to see they're taking the combat of this game very seriously, putting some manpower behind making sure it plays smooth, nice and balanced. Because I think a lot of MMOs are really nice to play and the combat might be quite nice, but when you get into PvP or a raid or something, or a dungeon, anything like that, you feel that it's very unbalanced, and it takes them a couple of months to patch it out and get all their classes nice and straight. So, you know, all we can do is hope that Elder Scrolls Online hits the ground running in terms of combat and balancing their classes up and whatnot. So anyway, the second reply to this question he gives is: the basics haven't changed. Elder Scrolls combat and content in an MMO with a minimalist interface and awesome visuals. Sorry about that, I kind of fucked up my words. I think this is why I'm so excited about this game. So, and this must be the case for people listening to this, like, if we can get a well-made, high production quality Elder Scrolls game, which consists of like very similar combat, lore and adventure, and on top of all that is massively multiplayer, you can't really lose with that. You know, if we get a really good, you know, if what everyone is hoping for, that it's still like playing Skyrim, but then at the same time it's like playing an MMO and you can go and do dungeons and things with your friends, then they've won, haven't they? But it's something they can easily get wrong, so I really hope they don't. So anyway, we'll move on to the second question asked. So they say during the beta announcement it was said that invaluable feedback will be received. What sort of data are you hoping to receive that you couldn't get otherwise? So in reply to this, Matt Firor says, not only are we getting invaluable data on player behavior, bug reports and direct feedback on the game, we're also making sure that the systems underlying the game support our user base. So I really like this answer, because I know you can argue that games designers wouldn't be stupid enough to not listen to feedback from a beta tester, but I guarantee a lot of good ideas have just been thrown away because, you know, because the one guy at the top or the people making the game have like a personal problem with it and they just haven't put it in, when the general public might have really liked that feature. But anyway, that, you know, that's just my opinion. But I think if there's any genre game where everyone can have what they want, it's got to be an MMO. Obviously nothing game ruining, like nothing that will destroy the lore of the Elder Scrolls behind it or anything like that. But I get the impression our voices will be heard with the people making this game. And after the beta test, you know, I hope we'll get a game for the gamers, you know, if you know what I mean by that. Like, I just think they could really make a really good game that people who've never played it before can really get into from the off, because that's how, you know, everyone got into an Elder Scrolls game at some point. You know, some people may have played them since the dawn of them, but, you know, I didn't. You know, I started Morrowind, Oblivion, things like that. I didn't play it like originally. But, you know, everyone starts at some point, and the younger people might be starting with this MMO. MMOs are a lot more popular now. So you never know, but, you know, I hope that they take what everyone says into consideration. So anyway, question 3 is, what does the setting of the Elder Scrolls Online 100 years before Oblivion and Skyrim allow you to do? So I really like this question. This is the question that I would have asked if I'd have had the chance. And in reply, he says, it allows us to be able to tell stories about a time that is not well documented in the lore, but what is known is very useful. Mid-Second Era is known basically as a time of destabilization, lack of central control in Tamriel, and lots of outside influences causing problems, invasions, pandemics, etc. It's a perfect setting for the Elder Scrolls Online. It has the familiar provinces and races, but a different cast of characters and stories. Also, it gives the player another era of Tamriel to explore, a time that is a little more unsettled than the Tamriel that they are used to in the other Elder Scrolls games. So I think, like I said, a great question, and I couldn't agree more with what Matt Firor says here, because as he says, it's the perfect setting. The fact that it's not well documented in other games gives them room to mess around a bit and create different mobs and bosses and things. You know, they can make silly creatures that they've not had before because it's set in a different time. Something could have, you know, gone extinct and things like that. So they can tie that into the lore, and you can get these interesting things. And the fact that the whole of Tamriel is, I quote, in a time of destabilization, makes for a more action-packed game, and this is something that most likely needed for an MMO version of the Elder Scrolls. Like, it's just definitely, an MMO would benefit more from this sort of era of the Elder Scrolls lore. Like, if there's more stuff going on all over Tamriel, stuff's kicking off everywhere, there's more stuff for all the players to be doing. Whereas in a single player game, they can afford to make it a little bit more chilled out. You've got times where you're just chilling out, riding your horse around for hours on end. And, you know, that's fine. Everybody loves a bit of that, but it'll be nice to have that in an MMO. So anyway, we'll move on to question 4. How do you balance creating an experience that's familiar to both MMO players and fans of the single-player Elder Scrolls games? So the answer to this was, we have taken the best of Elder Scrolls, freedom to explore, mouse-driven combat, awesome lore, setting and world, and the best of online RPGs, social systems, co-op gameplay, and PvP gameplay, and tons more. So the answer to this question is everything I wanted. So the perfect mix of MMO and Elder Scrolls game is what we all are after, clearly. Anyone watching this video is obviously interested in this game, at least a little bit, and you must want it to be a lovely mix between the two, and not just... But anyway, since I've known this game is going to come out, I've been so worried it's just going to become an okay MMO and an okay Elder Scrolls game, or even worse. You know, it could just be a total, like, no, this is not working. I'm sure some people love it. No matter what MMO comes out, you get, like, a serious amount of haters. You get the WoW fan club. Like, I played WoW for a long time, and, you know, people kicking off saying it's not as good as WoW, people kicking off at them saying that they just love WoW. You know, you always get this bullshit, and it doesn't really matter. If you like it, you like it. But I just really hope that I like it, and I think it's gonna. I think it definitely has the potential to do this and beat the next MMO that I play, because I'm currently not playing an MMO. I've just stopped playing WoW, and I'm looking for something else to get into. So hopefully this year that'll be a nice new game for me to get into. So it's got to be possible, right? You know, for them to get it that perfectly right. But anyway, we'll move on. Elder Scrolls games are known for allowing players to walk in one direction and freely discover dungeons and missions outside of specific quest lines. Will the Elder Scrolls Online offer a similar level of freedom? So this is the 5th question asked, and quite a long response, but I'll give it to you. Absolutely is the answer. Our quest exploration system was designed around this idea. In general, you can just walk across the area you're in, and the game's compass will lead you to areas to explore. When you find those areas, you'll find something fun to do, and you'll be rewarded right there. You don't need to go to an NPC to direct you to a quest. You can just find it yourself. We do limit somewhat the area that a player can explore based on level. If you get too far afield, you start running into enemies that are more difficult. Still, there's so much content that you don't have to do it all to progress to the next area. So you can't really ask for more of an answer to that question. You know, as long as the game's still true to the old-fashioned wander into a cave until it turns into like a bigger cave, then some ridiculous discovery and you awaken some ancient fucking power, then, you know, I'm happy. That's exactly what I want. I want it to just be like, oh my god, I've just finally found some elven armor, you know what I mean? And the first time you get to like a dwarven dungeon, you know, things like that, that's what I'm after. I don't want that to be lost. And, you know, the level restriction stuff is like, that was to be expected, I guess. I don't think that's going to surprise anybody, and that's fair enough, because like there's no point playing through the game and gaining levels if you can just go everywhere like you could in Skyrim and just it's all leveled to you. So anyway, I agree with that. I think it should be leveled accordingly, in certain areas should be like cordoned off. But anyway, we'll move on to question 6. How will the first and third person perspectives differ from the mainline Elder Scrolls games to better suit an MMO? So the answer, we are still working on this system, but as it stands right now, we have first and third person support, just like any other Elder Scrolls game. The only difference is that you don't see your hands and weapons in first person mode. So I mentioned this in my other video, but I wasn't sure about seeing your weapons in your hand. But we know now that first person will be supported, but you can't see your weapons. So it makes sense to me, because Skyrim, you know, when you're fighting in Skyrim, I guess I'm pretty much talking exclusively to anyone who's played Skyrim here, but you're playing in first person and the movements of your swords and your arms are completely different to the ones of the same button presses if you're in third person. I probably explained that in an awful way, but if you know what I mean, the animations are different from third to first person. So if you're in a group of people and I'm looking at you and you're attacking but you're in first person view, your screen would be showing something different to mine. It just wouldn't really work. I just don't think it'd work unless they made them the same, which again doesn't really work. You can't really convincingly do all these spin aroundy sort of moves while you're in first person, because then your view would spin. So yeah, it doesn't really work. And so it's basically just going to be like zooming in all the way through your character in World of Warcraft or Star Wars: The Old Republic, any other MMO where you can zoom right up and get this sort of like camera like view. That's pretty much what it's going to be like, I guess, but maybe a bit more in depth. So I probably won't be using first person, but that's entirely up to you. If you want to use it, fine. They did point out, however, in PvP you're going to have a better view of what's coming up behind you if you zoom right out, you know, in third person, which makes complete sense and is obvious. But there you go, there's just a little warning for you. So anyway, speaking of PvP, the next question involves such a topic. Competitive player versus player combat is new to the Elder Scrolls. How did you approach this traditional MMO feature to make it feel part of the series? So we took the world setting, alliances in the conflict with no central power, designed the PvP system around that idea. The player is a member of one of 3 alliances, all fighting over the remains of the Empire and the Imperial City. So this is an awesome move in my opinion, and this way of doing the PvP makes PvP still PvP, but also makes it part of the game's lore and storyline. So it's a nice move. It keeps MMO players and Elder Scroll players happy. So that's all I'm really going to say on that, because there's not much to say on that. I spoke about PvP in a previous video, and there isn't, you know, you can just go on the website. There's actually more information on the PvP on the Elder Scrolls website than really anything else about all the alliances and the war in the center and everything like that. So go and check that out. Next question. The Elder Scrolls Online will feature Skyrim as a region. How will it differ to that in the full game? So the answer to this, it feels the same as it did in the Elder Scrolls 5, but because Elder Scrolls Online is set in the past, we have our own stories and characters. So again, very, very nice touch. We'll all enjoy roaming through Skyrim again, within an MMO, let's be honest. So anyone who's played Skyrim will just love it, because you get to see everything you've seen before. But, you know, like it says, it's set in the past, so they can do a lot more with it. You know, it might look the same in a basic sort of way, the basic shapes, buildings will be in the same place, things like that, but, you know, all the NPCs and stories surrounding the familiar setting will be completely different. So, you know, I think that's like an obvious thing. It's just obviously going to be different in a lot of ways. So, yep. Anyway, we'll move on. Final question. I know this has probably been very long-winded, but hope I've brought you some nice information. So the last question. Do you envision the Elder Scrolls Online tying into future mainline Elder Scrolls games in some way, or will it be regarded mainly as a separate entity? It's a very good question, and I think a lot of people have been wondering like whether this is just going to be a bit of a... Right, this has nothing to do with the Elder Scrolls, it's just made by a separate company, it's nothing to do with Bethesda, and we're just going to keep it separate, and then Bethesda will make another Elder Scrolls game and just totally contradict everything they said in Elder Scrolls Online. But no, that's not the case at all. So the answer was, we work with designers at Bethesda Game Studios to make sure that all the lore is shared, so there is one continuous Elder Scrolls timeline, which is what everyone wants to hear. Everyone wanted to hear that. So now we know that the game won't be a nonsense piece of lore that gets forgotten about and redone. All the games will follow one big pot of lovely lore. So there you go. I've been Iron Brutal for Flamingo Gaming. This has been Elder Scrolls Preview Part 4. And keep your ears and eyes peeled for a bit of Part 5. If I get some more information, things like that, more interviews, I'll let you know. Please, 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 please subscribe. It really, really helps us out. And we should be trying to do a podcast soon. So if you're interested in that at all, it'll be 3 of us. It should be a little bit more entertaining than me just waffling. So anyway, thanks for listening, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.